Hello my friends and welcome. Let's start from the Kaboom news. We have the confirmation about the convoy of the Russian air defense systems, very expensive systems, S-400, where Russia lost 2 of the launchers at least. Well, I've told you about this one yesterday, and finally we have the confirmation of the successful Ukrainian strike. Belgorod Oblast, not that far away from Ukraine, and Ukraine used Lancet-like drones to hit those vehicles very precisely. As you might see, the convoy was tracked with the help of the surveillance drone, and it was a very successful operation. And you can see the rocket fuel is burning. And it looks like there were multiple of the strikes. For example, here the drone, one more drone is flying, and this vehicle is already smoking. For sure, in this case, those were not the decoys of the S-400 launchers. No, those were the real vehicles moving somewhere close to Ukrainian border. Russia often uses those systems to intercept Ukrainian drones flying to Russia to hit Russian refineries, Russian oil facilities, military bases, and so on. But it seems like very often Russia uses the capabilities to protect itself. I mean, those air defense systems. And we have also the good news coming from Crimea, where Russia also lost the radar of S-400 system. Here we have this image, the screenshot from the drone video. For today, guys, I'm just gonna show you those screenshots presented by Ukrainian SBU. One more short-range air defense system, Panzer 1S, was hit in Belbek airfield. By the way, this system is kind of capable to shut down drones, but at the same time, it is vulnerable against drones. Yeah, it's a real thing. And the fat target MiG-31 was hit also in Belbek airfield. This is the carrier of the Kinjal hypersonic missiles that Russia sometimes launches against Ukraine. Plus, it's the same aircraft type with which Russia violated the Estonian airspace a few months ago. It was kind of the weak reaction from NATO. Nevertheless, Ukraine, you see, with kinetic sanctions is more effective than NATO. That's why it's important to support Ukraine. We're gonna speak about that one also in today's video, about confiscation of the Russian assets, and we have some of the news relative to that, so bear with me. Lots of the things are going to be discussed. Well, here you can see that the canopy is open, the cockpit, the entrance. I'm not sure if those were the pilots inside, but the aircraft was towed somewhere from parking stand or to parking stand. Also, it's a good thing that Russia has the limited number of those hangars. You can see that the door is open on this hangar. Probably they wanted to put it inside. It's a little bit on the background there, so the size of it is actually bigger than the airplane. So maybe Ukraine did it at the proper time, and I guess that the aircraft was moving. The nose gear is also tilted a little bit, so it was hard for our drone operators to hit this target because it was slowly but moving its position. Nevertheless, the signal latency allowed precise strike. Plus, the image quality, as you may see, is kind of good, so it tells a lot about Ukrainian capabilities to hit those targets, very important for Russia, far away from Ukrainian controlled territory. Fantastic, awesome job by Ukraine. Plus, the good thing that those airplanes like MiG-31, Russian strategic aviation, and many more, Russia cannot produce. Yes, they produce Sukhoi 57, Sukhoi 35, also Sukhoi 34 and Sukhoi Su-30, but it's just a part of the capabilities of the Russian aviation. For MiG-31, the fastest jet flying nowadays is Russia is in lack of those technologies. They lost it with the collapse of the Soviet Union. So even though they produce this Kinjal hypersonic super-duper missile, but they only capable to launch it from the old platform. And eventually, all of those airplanes will just run out of the resources. And Russia itself, Russian economy, is unable to sustain a new design of the similar like airplane MiG-31 to continue to launch those hypersonic missiles. So in the next 20 years, I expect that Russia will lose hypersonic capabilities at all, because the platform is damn old and Ukraine is using kinetic sanctions against it. Plus, Ukraine continued to hit Russian raiders like Neba that cost millions of dollars. 2 of them were hit this time. The very important thing for Ukraine is to identify the locations of those raiders to use drones more effectively. But here I can see the shore, so it's not that far away from the sea, and Ukraine is using sometimes even FPV drones to hit facilities. And in the Russian air defense, it seems like it is still blind, because those drones, they're not that big, so it's hard to identify it. It's like a bird flying, you know. Russian systems just cannot process what is flying and hitting them, so I expect those strikes to continue. They're very successful. At least once, sometimes 2 times per week, we have those reports. The Ukrainian military intelligence, SBU, they're doing absolutely fantastic job clearing the way, actually, for Ukrainian long-range drones to reach some other Russian facilities like oil reservoirs in Crimea. Russia lost many of them, refineries. And we have also the report that Ukraine launched the strike in Novorossiysk port against the Russian oil tanker. Let's go and check out this information. So yeah, this Russian tanker, its name Valery Gorchakov, was attacked by probably Ukrainian drone boats or even Ukrainian drone submarines. It's not a big tanker, I would say, but it was used to transport Russian oil, so it was serving for the purpose of refilling the Russian economy and the Russian war machine, so it's a legitimate target for Ukraine. Especially, it's not just the Russian shadow oil fleet or something. No, it's the pure Russian oil tanker, registered in Russia with the Russian flag. So we have the image from this car. Here's the tanker. It's staying over there. Let me show you the closer perspective. Yeah, I'm gonna move my image for you to see the aft part of this vessel. It is going underwater. Actually, as it is reported, it was hit straight to the aft part, and there were even life losses among those sailors who were working for the Russian war machine. So I would compare it to hitting some of the Russian enterprise, where there also could be some of the personnel in those refineries, in military production, warehouses. Causing those kind of the casualties is not a priority for Ukraine. After all, those are not the Russian military pilots who require lots of the investments also from the Russian military budget and who are qualified to fly Russian sophisticated jets. Russian military pilots, I would say, are even more priority target for Ukraine than to hit the Russian military airplanes. But here, of course, the main thing was to hit this tanker. There was no oil on board. It was going to get the oil and transport it somewhere for profit for Russian economy. And here's the oil terminal. By the way, the same place was hit a couple of days ago, some of the facility. Yeah, sorry guys, this oil tanker that I mentioned to you before has been kaputted not in Novorossiysk, but in Rostov oil port. And you know what? Russia absolutely cannot defend its commercial shadow oil fleet. They still have to trade their oil to get the income. If they cannot defend even their navy ships, how can they defend their commercial vessels? It's impossible. Moreover, Russian Navy locked itself in Novorossiysk port completely. Here's the most fresh satellite image from the Novorossiysk military port. You may see some of the Russian ships are there, military ships. So what Russians did here, they put just containers, they drowned them on top of one another, and they blocked the way in for Ukrainian drone submarines, for Ukrainian boats, but they also blocked the way out. So they basically trapped their own navy in Novorossiysk just because of the single Ukrainian submarine drone strike. So Ukraine actually trapped the Russian Navy. They cannot act freely in the Black Sea. They're in one point, Novorossiysk. Okay. That's how mighty the second army in the world looks like nowadays. Unable for anything, just parked ships, parked submarines. It is actually outstanding because Ukraine doesn't have its own navy. Lots of the ships were hit by Russia or captured during the occupation of Crimea. Yeah, Ukraine has some of the Coast Guard boats or something. Also, there are orders to build the ships in Turkey, but again, they could be targeted by Russian cruise missiles, ballistic missiles. Nevertheless, with the help of the drones, it's the 21st century. Ukraine was capable for this sort of the mission to extinguish the presence of the Russian Navy completely in the Black Sea. And now about some of the kabooms which are happening in Russia. In Saratov, there was something burning the last night, as usual. Slavyansky oil refinery was on fire. I guess this is Rostov or Krasnodar region. Ukrainian officials also reported about successful strike on Astrohansky oil refinery, but we don't have the video or photo confirmation from the place. Well, what we usually see as the confirmation, those videos published by the eyewitnesses, this is just the part of the whole story. Sometimes those refineries are far away from the settlements or even villages. The same goes for the Russian military bases. And for the last couple of weeks, I see that Ukraine concentrated the strikes mostly on Russian military units, also tanker, as I showed you. So sometimes it's different, not just refineries. And about the boat that was hit in Novorossiysk port, we have this detailed image, and some of our analytic says that probably there could be the damage to the aft part, but we are not sure without the real evidence. What we see is the huge damage to the docking port, so it was lots of the TNT inside. Few meters left, and it could be a devastating strike on the submarine. It could go down. Well, still there could be damage, but for now it's hard to confirm it. So more details we obtain with more images coming, right? Alright guys, now about the frontline updates. We have some good news coming, like for example here you can see in Kupiansk, Ukraine intensified the infiltration deep into the Russian controlled territories. Some of the enclaves where still there is the presence of the Russian army, and Ukraine is very successful with that. And also we have some of the bad news, of course. It's the war, and Russia still has the major advantage over Ukraine in resources, armament and weaponry, also in ability to finance its army. That's why Ukraine again requires new support packages just to be able to apply those kinetic sanctions on Russia, maintain its army. Yeah, we're gonna speak about that one also today. Nevertheless, let's check out the interactive map from Mayakovsk. He is a very good analytic, very precise with his analysis and geolocations. Here we have this interactive map. The link for it is in a video description just below for the Mayakovsk Twitter, and there you can find the link for this map. So here is the presence of the Ukrainian army. Yeah, some of those videos I cannot really show on this platform. That's why, guys, after filming this video and uploading it, I'm gonna go live on Kick platform, where I sometimes stream combat images, my reaction on that one. So if you want to check this out, you may go to the link in the video description, and there will be the link for all of my other media, my another YouTube channel, and there will be also Kick where I stream. I stream actually every day, and yesterday I streamed the address of Donald Trump. It was cringe out of cringes. I did it on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. So YouTube, Twitch are those kind of them conversation streams, streaming of events, and there were lots of the people on my YouTube channel yesterday. I usually announce the stream before I stream, and here is the video I want to discuss. For example, today, one of those videos. Here you can see Ukraine works with artillery, drones, kicking Russians out. Russians continue to surrender. Meanwhile, Russian propaganda, Russian defense ministry at the highest level, and pro-Russian military bloggers and influencers continue to deny that Russian army has been trapped or encircled in Kupiansk. For them, everything is okay. And yesterday they posted this kind of the video with a allegedly Russian soldier telling that they're in Kupiansk and everything is great. We are at the street of the Russian city Kupiansk, but it's not Rus, and this street, the small one, was after all geolocated. It was spread by the Russian propaganda with those fake Russian maps saying that Russians are in Kupiansk, but Community Note already stated that it's fake. This video wasn't filmed in Kupiansk, instead it was filmed in Davydov village, far away from Kupiansk actually. Deep State and other analytics already busted this argument of Russia that they're in Kupiansk, so they say that they're here somewhere, yeah, Russians, but instead they're far, far, far away, around 30 with something kilometers to the northeast, not even close. And that's, my friends, how the Russian propaganda works. That's why I consider that my job is also kind of important, telling everyone the truth of what is really happening. And I not only give you the good news, also there's some of the bad news. I'm very interested to spread the truth because people trust me when I say it, yeah? So it's my, let's say, reputation to tell you the proper information. Now let's go to Pokrov's direction. I see that Is it the loss of the Ukrainian vehicles? Well, they're blue. Let's check it out. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, unfortunately, Ukraine lost several of the vehicles. It was geolocated and confirmed those vehicles were abandoned. It's the good thing. I don't see the strike itself here on this video. Strange. Maybe this vehicle has already been hit before and we have just this confirmation from the drone. Yeah, Ukraine lost lots of the vehicles in an attempt to get some of the supplies to Mirnograd or to get the forces out. Here, I would say that defense wasn't organized properly, causing Ukrainian army to be at least partially encircled, and now this battle, like, it doesn't exist. Everything here is being infiltrated by Russians with the presence of the Ukrainian armed forces, so everything is mixed, boiling. Nevertheless, for the last day, Russia moved a little bit behind the railway. They attempted it for the last months, and finally it looks like they made it to this district, and they will create the bridgehead here. For Ukraine, it's not good scenario, of course. Nevertheless, Russia continued to lose their forces, and one more Russian convoy was ambushed on the way to Pokrovsk. The deep state also gives us the picture of the Russian new territorial gains here behind the railroad. Yeah, not good situation, I would say, but we have what we have. Ukraine will not be able to hold Pokrovsk and Mirnograd for a few months or something. I expect that maximum at the beginning of next year, January, Ukraine will leave Mirnograd and Pokrovsk completely. Well, I expected it to happen the last winter, honestly. For me, it is just a miracle that Ukraine holds that long in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. Now let's go to the good news. This is Novopavlovka. Russia again tried to attack Novopavlovka with a convoy, and they lost everything, as usual. The video is fresh, it's snowy picture there. Here you can see the Russian armored vehicle, looks like BTR. Sternenko says that Russia lost 5 BMPs, 2 tanks, 2 all-terrain vehicles and 4 of the occupiers. The rest this time managed to return back. Hangar type of the BTRs. Ukraine has to use multiple of the drones to hit those, to break through the defense or armor, it's better to say, yeah, here. The Hitchcock tanks with lots of the roads, wires, meshes and everything. You need to be very, very precise to hit the tank armor itself. The usual Mad Max style of the tank armor. Here, yeah, it's very difficult to fly the drones, guys, very difficult. I got the Ukrainian flight drone simulator, I got this controller, it's TBS Tango 2 for practice. Yeah, I like to fly on the simulator. By the way, that one has been used by many of the Ukrainian regiments, brigades and corps. So I understand to hit that precisely, for example, this mechanic driver hatch for T-72 tank, well, it's very, very hard. Especially then you have outside factors like, for example, electronic warfare, wind and everything of that. It's not for everyone, I would say. And drone pilots, they need to be skilled to stop those Russian convoys, because the convoys, they may go to some of the settlement, encounter active battle against our troops. So the lives of your brothers, the lives of Ukrainian army depend on how precisely you may fly. So there's lots of the stress for drone operators. I cannot imagine flying those drones such precisely under this pressure. But somehow our operators managed to do it, successfully hitting Russian vehicles on the way, in this case, to Novopavlovka. And guys, what I also see that Russians are in desperate, because this particular attack was conducted under more or less okay weather conditions. They're not waiting for fog any longer. They just go, because the highest command, they told, okay, you need to take Novopavlovka no matter what. And according to my personal calculations, Russia lost 35 of the vehicles from the beginning of their attempts to get Novopavlovka under control. Infantry forces, I do not count. And here's one more video, was filmed somewhere in Donetsk Oblast. I'm trying to find out the location. Maybe in next video I'm gonna clarify it. There's the Russian convoy, that's the other one. Some of the vehicles, mainly, UAZ vehicles, Neva. You can see that the convoy is gone. Those are the Russian attack attempts. One vehicle is smoking. It seems like it was hit recently. Yeah, definitely lots of the cars, and here is one guy who decided to rest a little. I will not show you this video till the end. And now let's go to Zaporizhia direction, Gulai-Pole, where Ukrainian defense is probably the weakest from all of the settlements. Well, in Siversk, Russia also was successful recently. Well, here Russia uses kind of the profitable from the tactical perspective strategy for them. They use lots of them aviation gliding bombs, and it looks like they moved, yeah, they already crossed the river here. They will attack Ukrainian positions from multiple of the vectors than before it was possible just from one side, from Zatisha village, but they created some of the bridgeheads. They do not fill those with a significant amount of the reinforcements, just occasional presence of the Russian infantry, but still there is the presence. And the most devastation is done, of course, by bombs. And it looks like Russia for the first time started to use Iskander-M ballistic systems, which are capable to operate for the distance up to 1,300 kilometers. But with conventional warfare, it's up to 1,000 kilometers, so potentially they may cover all or almost all of the Ukraine. From the Belarus territory, I think it's all of the Ukraine, and it's very, very hard to intercept ballistic missiles. By the way, today Zelensky mentioned that Ukraine is running out of some of the interceptor missiles. Well, he didn't specify what particular air defense systems are affected with the lack of the munition, but it seems like Patriot, after all, because from the information coming, the supplies are agreed, yes, according to the Pearl program, but they're coming very, very slowly. Ukraine absolutely needs PAC-3 missiles to conquer Russian Iskanders. Without it, it's no go. Because Russians will continue to cut Ukrainian logistics, Ukrainian energy infrastructure. In Odessa, it's very hard now with energy. For some of the households, it's absent for 10 days already, which is crazy. How can you live without 10 days of electricity? But it is happening in some of the points of Ukraine. Also, I may see what Russia is planning to do with their strikes on Zatoka. There is just a single road connection, this bridge, which is very critical for Ukraine for supplies. Plus, there is one more road that goes through territory of Moldova, even, yeah, partially. It goes like that. With some of the bridge, it's here, and Russia also aims towards it. So by cutting two of the roads, Russia now plans to isolate the part of Odessa Oblast. Well, they cannot isolate it completely because supplies could be done through Romania and Moldova. So, yeah, there is the land, there are the roads and everything, but it makes it more difficult for Ukraine to supply those entire settlements and Dunaba port infrastructure because, Ukraine operates in some of the ports of Reni, with all of the deliveries coming from Odessa through those two roads. Now Ukraine probably will have to transit those through Romania, maybe. Alright, now let's go to this northern area of the Donetsk Oblast where Russia advances forward pretty much fast. Compared to their movement in Pokrovsk, here they are way faster. And let's check out the advancement of the Russian army for the last 3 days. So, by the way, it was yesterday and today, and for the last 3 days it was like that. Today is 18th of December, and the update came from 17th of December. Definitely Russians took lots of the territories, and the next defense line goes very close to Slavyansk. So the main idea, I guess, for Ukraine should be to slow down this Russian movement towards Slavyansk, because this is really dangerous for Slavyansk. Russia cut those bridges, so they cannot go from Liman, but they can go from Siversk. Alright guys, to another news. Russian military crossed into NATO country, Estonia. It happened this morning. 3 of the Russian soldiers went from the Russian border. The border is over here. And they were spotted at this part of this pit. It happened yesterday morning. I'm sorry, we have just obtained this information today. So Russians somehow, maybe on a boat, maybe they just walk here, and here they were spotted by Estonians. I guess there was some sort of the camera that captured the presence of 3 of the figures, and at least one, as we may see, is armed. Yeah, it looks like some sort of the rifle. So this is the Russian border control that crossed the border. They were staying there for a long 20 minutes without any sort of the reaction coming from Estonian side, and then left. The only action from Estonia will be the request of an explanation at a meeting of the border representatives tomorrow, so today. And the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs will summon the Chargé de l'Affaires in the Russian embassy of Estonia. So, you did something wrong, please explain us. What's our kind of the weak reaction for crossing the border? Yeah, as usual. There were provocations before with the drones, airplanes, by the way, in Estonian airspace, now with actual soldiers. So Russia increases the strength of those provocations, checking out the red lines of NATO. Those provocations are not happening just in Estonia. For example, two dozens, so at least 20, of unidentified large military-style drones flew in formation over Hasberg Air Base in northern Germany on December 16th, which houses the primary technical logistical training center for helicopters operated by both German Air Force and the Army. By the way, there was the information that Germany could supply some of their helicopters, maybe even like that, to Ukraine. And again, the weak reaction here. During both incidents, no drones were downed or attempted to be downed, as they did not pose an immediate danger and there was nothing to spy on, according to Bundeswehr. Yeah, just a military base, who cares? Drones flying, let them fly. Like a birds, A very, very weak reaction from NATO, from all of those military officials. Europe needs to wake up and finally do something about those drones. Like, for example, Turkey recently shut down one of the drones, which was out of control and flying towards its territory. Whether it was a Russian drone or Ukrainian one, they didn't specify. To the other news, Ukrainian delegation, together with Zelensky, took part in the European Council summit, where the question of the frozen Russian assets was discussed and whether Europe should confiscate those to help Ukraine, because without those, Ukraine will not be able to produce its own long-range drones, short-range drones, and Zelensky said it openly that without those funds, Ukraine will lose its drone advantage over Russia elsewhere on the front lines and with long-range strikes. And the recent news is that European summit in Brussels is still deadlocked on how to fund Ukraine for the next year. Whether to confiscate those assets or not, the key issue is how to unlock 210 billion euro loan, with Belgium and Italy resisting. Italy is, Meloni is the close ally of Donald Trump, probably the closest one, together with Orban in Europe. Well, even though Meloni is, like she says, she supports Ukraine, but now Italy is blocking confiscation of the frozen Russian assets together with Brussels. And they're playing in favor of Russia in this case. The funds are being held in Euroclear, by the way, not in the Belgian banks or something. Euroclear is the private institution vault, where people invest or put their assets, as well as Russia, for example, plus European banks, private companies, they may hold their assets, and most of the Russian money are in Euroclear. Well, President Zelensky met with the Belgian Prime Minister. They discussed of how to deal with those frozen assets. I hope that finally they will be confiscated, because Europe has no other choice than to support Ukraine. Europe is defended nowadays by Ukraine. Without Ukraine, Russia would attack European countries of NATO. I already told you about those provocations happening, and NATO is not ready, it seems like, to defend itself. At least at this stage, they need some time to apply military reforms and so on. Yeah, everything is complicated, but those bureaucrats, officials, I don't like them, because they need to act more strongly in support of Ukraine, because Ukrainian warriors and Ukrainian civilians are under the constant Russian strikes, attacks. By the time they're living their safe life, wearing expensive watches and those costumes. And the Washington Post here, with the article, opens the eyes of what could happen behind the curtains. There are the talks between Russia and the United States of America about the Russian assets, which are now held in Euroclear, and Russia wants to get access to those once again, so they want to get those out from Euroclear with the help of the United States. So the White House administration, maybe Witkoff and Kushner personally, they're pressing Europe, some of officials, maybe Brussels personally, to take the frozen Russian assets out from Euroclear to American side. And you know what might happen. Part of the money will be invested to the private companies connected or affiliated with Donald Trump's family, and the part of those funds will go to the Russian central bank to refuel the Russian war machine. So the pressure on Europe comes from all of the sides. Belgian politicians and finance bosses targeted by Russian intelligence over seized assets. The information came from the European intelligence agencies, and there is intimidation campaign organized by Russia, maybe supported by White House, simply because they're also interested in confiscating of those funds, not for support of Ukraine, absolutely not, but for own business interests. So now it is the exam of the European unity, whether Europe alone may be so united to confiscate those assets to help Ukraine, which is a main security shield for Europe. Or they may just tell Ukraine, get lost, it's your own war, here's your partial military support, Ukraine may lose more territories, and finally the war could spark on territory of EU, of NATO, and all of those countries will be forced to use their military to protect themselves, basically. Yeah. You see, yeah, two of the choices: not to be scared by United States and Russia and to support Ukraine for their own safety, or just to don't give a fuck about what is happening and live their miserable lives, because then Russia attacks many of those officials, politicians, they will just exit their countries. They always have this kind of the option if they have lots of the money. Well guys, here were the main news, and follow me on other platforms. As I said to you, I'm every day streaming. After uploading the video, I go for a stream. Today it will be Kick Frontline Images. The link is below. And also, if you want to support my job, there's also the Patreon. Thank you for all of the Patreon members and the members of YouTube channel for making this content possible. Guys, you're just fantastic. Without you, I wouldn't be able to film anything. And if you don't have the opportunity to support me in that way, you may just press the like to this video and also subscribe for the channel. By doing it, you propel the video in YouTube algorithms, which is also very important. Guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.